and welcome to another episode of Momentum. I'm your host, Philip Allison. Our guest today is Dr. Rani Sullivan, a professor in aerospace engineering and the holder of the Richard H. Johnson Endowed Chair. Dr. Sullivan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're certainly glad to have you today. I want to jump right in and talk maybe about a really big project. You and Dr. Jean Mohammadi Iraq, who's a professor in electrical and computer engineering, have a pretty big research project studying the role that culture plays in whether or not women pursue engineering. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project?
Sure. That is a project that has garnered a great deal of interest. And it actually started in a really organic fashion. Jean and I were just discussing the fact that we both became engineers and we both come from a multicultural background. So we began wondering, does culture play a role in women selecting engineering as their career or a STEM field in their career? And that's how the project actually began. This very usual conversation just led to us realizing that we actually have a partnership with a Moroccan university in which we get 20 to 25 students from Morocco here in our aerospace engineering or mechanical engineering programs. So we have a group of students that come every year that could participate in our study. And thus we wrote the National Science Foundation grant and it was awarded.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting project. And as you mentioned, the focus is primarily with, I guess, the students here in the United States and then students in Morocco. Is that kind of the narrow focus, or is it focus on students around the world?
No, it is exclusively focused right now on U.S. and Moroccans. So it's just because of the pool of people that we have to work with. What we realized early on when we began doing our research is that here, I looked up some numbers. The National Science Foundation puts out the science and engineering indicators, and it showed that women account for about half of the college-educated workforce here in the U.S. However, only about 16% of the degrees in engineering are obtained by women. That is not true for all countries, particularly the Asian countries or the Eastern countries, Morocco being one of them. So that is why we focused on Morocco, just because we have participants coming in every year.
Yeah. And I guess what are the numbers look like from a country like Morocco? Do you know off the top of your head?
They're almost half and half. And that was the other thing when we started looking at numbers, and every year we would get a cohort, I think beginning in 2015, approximately half of the students that came were women. It also surprised the Americans when they would enter a class that such a large group of female engineers was coming in.
Yeah. And I guess looking at the percentages of women that study engineering here in the United States, you said it's about 16%. Have you seen that number move at all over the years, or has it been pretty steady at that rate?
You know, the 16% is an average number, so some disciplines are going to be higher. But for aerospace, we have thus far been unable to shift that. 15 to 18% is all we get. So even though there have been improvements, we're still lagging behind.
Yeah, I know here at Mississippi State, our biological and biomedical engineering department is actually over 50% women, which I think is fairly rare. So does this focus, is it looking at engineering as a whole, or are you focusing primarily on aerospace engineering students?
We are looking at both aerospace and mechanical engineering graduate students, Moroccan, because that is the cohort that comes. Typically, they come here to finish up their master's degree.
Mm-hmm. And I know you mentioned that it's going to be primarily those Moroccan students, but is there an American student component at all, or will that come maybe later down the line?
No, we are interviewing Americans that are seniors and graduate students as well. So we would have a comparison.
Yeah. And I guess how long, I know this project's kind of already gotten started, how long do you anticipate this research to take?
The project officially ends this year, but we are hoping for a follow-on study.
Yeah. And I guess, I know that you also work here on campus with the Women of Aerospace group. Have you been able to maybe even unofficially get any findings from them or any information from those students that you work with?
You know, the Moroccan engineers, the graduate students have been really excited to join in that group and form this fellowship. The Women of Aerospace group was created as a support group. It provides leadership opportunities, it provides mentoring opportunities, and one of the things that the women are most interested in are the outreach opportunities that they get to participate in. Yeah. So an example of that would be working with the children at the Mississippi Sheriff's Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah. And I know that's one of our actually more active student groups in engineering, and kind of picking back on that other discussion. Have you seen kind of involvement in that group increase over the years?
You know, because of COVID, it kind of laid low, but on the other hand, it also proved really valuable in this last year because some of the students were isolated. So in the beginning, most of the meetings were virtual, but still it provided some interaction for the students. But later on, like the spring semester, there we began having face-to-face events.
Yeah. And I guess I want to transition, continuing in the research vein, into some of your other research. I know that you're very heavily involved with advanced composite materials and structures. And for someone like me who's not in engineering, doesn't have an engineering background, can you maybe explain that, kind of what those things are?
Sure. So that research for me, or that interest for me, began early on. In fact, as soon as I finished my bachelor's degree here in aerospace engineering, because Honda Research and Development were here to build the first all-composite business jet, and I was one of the 3 engineers that was on that project, from the American side, that is. And so that's where I began looking, working, investigating, and researching advanced composite materials. So in the aerospace industry, we are always interested in seeking out materials that produce structures that are lightweight but still strong. And these advanced composites satisfy many of those requirements because if they're lightweight, we get to carry a larger payload. We have a higher fuel efficiency. We have better performance. So with that in mind, there's a great deal of research that is done using these advanced materials. Specifically, I concentrate on carbon composites, polymer matrix composites. These are layered structures. So there is a weakness. They tend to what's called delaminate, or the layers separate. So one of the ways that we address this is to do through the thickness reinforcements, or stitching. And in the last few years, we have actually acquired a unique robotic stitching capability that is located at Raspet Flight Lab at the Advanced Composites Institute. So we work closely with them as well.
Yeah, I was
my group, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. I was actually going to bring up Raspet. I know that is a great, valuable partnership that the College of Engineering has is with Raspet Flight Laboratory. And I was just curious how that relationship has aided that research.
Oh, definitely. I had a student there a week ago fabricating composite parts. So we investigate cracks. Cracks in flight vehicles are a big deal breaker. So it doesn't matter if it's metallic or composite. We're always trying to understand and retard. In our case, we are looking at how stitches retard or arrest this damage. We are looking at how gas permeation through the walls of these stitched composites, that carries us straight to space exploration technologies, because what we're looking to do with that is to build cryogenic tanks. So these would be enabling the technology for reusable launch vehicles.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Well, you did mention that you got your bachelor's degree here at Mississippi State. You are actually a 3-time Mississippi State alumna, which
yes.
We are always excited to talk to folks. I guess what brought you here to begin with, and what kind of led to your decision to continue pursuing your education here?
Yeah. So I So I've been a part of this aerospace engineering department as long as I can remember. My father, Zahir Warsi, was invited here by the then department head and did his research here. He is an applied mathematician. And like many women engineers, one of their primary role models is their father. And it was absolutely true for me. So I stayed here. I got my bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering under his guidance and his encouragement, strong encouragement. And then I also met my husband here, who at that time had a great position in the local power industry, the utility company. And so when we married, we stayed right here. I finished my degree. And as I said, Honda R&D was here, so I didn't miss a beat. I got an aerospace engineering job immediately, and that's how it began for me.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you've been part of the aerospace program for a very long time, and you obviously will continue to be. It was recently announced that you're going to take on the role as interim department head for the aerospace engineering department, which I can speak from having known you, that's very well deserved. And just would love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so I'm actually excited about it. Maybe that's a little bit of ignorance, but I am excited about it because I'm going to continue to work with the same great group of people that I have been working with. We've always pulled together. Our department is in a good place. We are about to welcome at least 3 more new faculty in the fall. And I hope that we can move forward and I can provide some stability. I'm actually quite honored that the dean, our dean of engineering, Jason Keith, has this confidence in my abilities.
Yeah. Well, I know one of your roles as department head, and I know you'll wear many hats, but I know you'll occasionally have to meet with prospective students. And if you had the chance to talk to someone who might be interested in aerospace engineering, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think the first thing that they need to do is to start talking to people, start talking to engineers, start looking and reading, educate themselves. But I would absolutely tell them aerospace engineering is a very exciting field, and it is performing research at the cutting edge of technology. I would tell them, don't be intimidated, because what you don't know, we can teach you if you're willing to learn.
Yeah. Well,
so.
Sorry, that's great, and I know students would value that advice, but unfortunately we are out of time. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember that you can follow along with everything going on in the College of Engineering on social media and at our website. Thanks for watching.